It is a new era for India, a transformative time as the startup surge is reshaping India's economy. India is currently home to over 1.5 lakh registered startups, over 100 unicorns, and as per recent data, these startups are creating over 15.5 lakh direct jobs in the country. Startups are expected to be the core driver to India's economic growth this decade, or transformative era as it is being called. They are likely to contribute nearly $120 billion or 1.6% to India's GDP by 2030, as per a latest study conducted by Kalari Capital. This essentially means there could be a 3.5 times jump in the contribution of startups to the state of India's economy as compared to 2023. To analyze this study further, I'm joined by Nishchil Kandula, the co-founder of Create, Akriti Gupta, founder of Juno Mom, and Rajneesh Bhandari, member Implementation Committee for Startups, also the founder of Neuro Equilibrium. Thank you all for your time. Rajneesh, I'd like to begin by asking you, India's decade, or a decade powered by the impact of technology, is about to take off. The study also mentioning the exponential growth expected in EdTech, Health Tech, and Deep Tech. Your thoughts on what is critical really for all startups in order to achieve this pace of growth and contribute to India's economy?
So I think the main drivers have been, Make in India. That has been a main driver. Then we have the GEM, which had the startup runway, where 24,000 startups are registered and about 23,000 crores of, sales have been done at the government portal. We have had BIRAC and others who have contributed to about 3,500 startups, and they have gone on to raise about 4,000 crores of follow-up funding. And then, of course, UPI has been a great leveling field and a transformative digital payment system which has helped this. So these have been the key drivers, and I think what is expected now is that if government could be the procurement, could have a mechanism for procurement of innovation. Typically, what happens is in the government sector, you need, 3 or more tenders or bids. Now, if there is something which is for the first time happening in India and it is an innovative product, then and it is in key sectors like agri-tech, med-tech, and clean tech and others, where government is actually a procurement agency, then if government can have a mechanism for procurement of innovation, something like this has been done in the defense sector with Dare to Dreams 5.0 and 4.0 that they had earlier. So something like an X Prize where they encourage the startups in this ecosystem.
Right, some key suggestions there really. Akriti, as someone who's a startup founder herself, take our viewers through the challenges and how you overcame them.
I think I would agree with whatever we have been discussing so far. Yes, I think we are sitting in a time where there's a lot of privilege. So while there are challenges, we have an ecosystem which is ready for entrepreneurs. We have resources in terms of capital, in terms of mentorship, in terms of government policies, and so on and so forth. I'm myself a beneficiary of Startup India. In terms of challenges, I think a lot of us are, we start fairly young. And when we do that, there is a learning curve for the founder itself. There is learning in terms of how do you build the team, how do you figure out what the consumer really wants. Just raising funds doesn't solve it. The biggest focus area for any founder is that what problem are we solving for the consumer, and getting to that can have its own twists and turns.
Right, Nishchil, how do you think the government's policy initiatives have helped so far? And going forward, what would be your message to startup founders like yourself, as often fear of investment or just starting out on your own can be quite overwhelming?
Yeah, it is, but I think we are, like Akriti was mentioning, we are in fairly a privileged era. Two things. One, the all digital India initiatives have been extremely transparent. We ourselves have started our startup Create during COVID era, and we didn't have to visit any sort of government agency. It was all done transparently. But most importantly, two things that's helping this entire wave. Number one, India is now a consumption first society and economy. More than 60% of Indian economy is driven by consumption. And only other country that is on similar lines is USA. So what we have to do is government policies should aid consumption, obviously available of capital both for the consumers as well as the business owners is important. But the other important factor that is helping us is the distribution. Earlier, the distribution largely was physical. Nowadays, this Q-commerce, the social commerce, this ONDC, the BNPL, buy now, pay later, all this is helping us to actually ride the wave and accelerate the growth at very fast pace.
Right, Rajneesh, job creation is really at the center of this all. We have seen that already over 15.5 lakh direct jobs are being created because of startups in the country. But going forward, as we see that tech is evolving and we see the startup studies being conducted on the pace of growth, going forward, how can this sector alone create more jobs, you think?
Yeah, so I think as per government data, about 17 lakh direct jobs have been created by startups. And this should increase by about 4 times by 2030. And the top contributors have been, of course, startups in the IT sector, but also in the health and life sciences sector, EdTech center. What government has to do is to liberalize, some of the laws, simplify the laws, especially the labor laws. And let the startups bloom, and some of the regulatory issues that come in the way, if they are sorted out, we will have much more employment generation by the startups.
Right, Akriti, do you agree, and do you feel it is time to rescale and focus on skill development altogether?
No, I agree. I think I definitely agree with Rajneesh, and I'm looking at it from two angles. I think one big side of it is, yes, our compliances are still not extremely startup friendly. Any founder spends a significant amount of time, abiding by all of the compliances. That takes time for sure. The second one being that consumer is changing. In the last 10 years, 20 years, the consumer has changed a lot. And with that, it places us in a very great position to look at newer problems, come up with newer solutions. Now, when the problems are new, the consumer sentiment is new, the solutions are new, automatically we are talking about very different kind of skills. We are talking about very different kind of job generation altogether. Like, for example, delivery, 10-minute delivery or 30-minute delivery, that has become such a huge section in terms of job creation. We wouldn't have thought that 10 years back. So it's about reimagining everything, from skill development, from solutions, from ecosystem, everything.
Right, Nischal, last word to you. Do you agree it is time to reimagine everything for this sector to grow at the pace it is estimated to grow now?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think we've already taken advantage of the Indian context here. The labor available at cheap cost is earlier seen as a negative, but nowadays that's the positive thing. And that's how the deliveries and the 10-minute deliveries, 15-minute deliveries, all happening at such a big scale. I think it's important to understand Indian dynamics and think big and build in India for India. And we are still at 1.6 by 2030. Startups will still contribute to 1.6% of the GDP, and in developed nations, it's above 5 to 10%. It's a long way to go, and I think we just started off in this race.
All right, thank you all for sharing your insightful thoughts and for this interaction.
Thank you.
Thank you.